So you like a shoeless traveler of your very own? Well, what am I to do but oblige? In this video, I am going to do a small manufacturing run of these guides for sale. You can check out a link in the description below as to where you can get these. Now, this original model, I am not going to be able to replicate because it comes from a 2-inch wide stock from which I hogged out a huge amount of metal. It's just way too time consuming, especially with my tiny little mill, which only is able to take a hair's width of metal at a time out. But I think I came up with a better solution. I got some stock, some stainless steel stock, that is already of the right dimension approximately. This original Traveler has a really long hook. This hook is overkill. It's really not necessary because the main reference face that the saw is moving along is the shoe side, not this hook. This hook, its only purpose is to attach into this Veritas extruded aluminum straight edge. I'm pretty sure that you don't need such a long hook. Instead, one of these shorter guys should do the job just fine. So stick around and I'll show you how I machined the Shoeless Traveler 2.0. And if you just want the executive summary, jump to the timestamp indicated right here. Second thing first is to square up one of these ends, and the belt grinder does that really quick fast. Very nice finish. The other end, I'll deal with that later. And that's way too fucking slow. I gotta figure something better than that out. It's not really an option. I think I got an idea though. I am going to try to remove a bulk of this material away with my belt grinder. But in order to do that, I'm going to need to make myself a jig. And I'm going to begin with this piece of aluminum, and I will just square it off to begin with and remove the number of the beast. And the curse is finally lifted. Yeah, that's about right. So after a few more milling operations and some trial and error futzing around to get these measurements just right, I ended up with this jig and a little plunger. Now let me throw it up on the belt grinder and I'll show you how it works. So the jig fits with a little bit of a space for the grinding belt to move freely. We've got a slot here into which the stock is slid, and the stock is able to slide along the grinding belt, grinding it down. Now to push it into the belt, I have a plunger, and the plunger can put in even pressure. However, you notice that there's a lip on the jig, and the lip, its purpose is to limit how much grinding can actually be done. Here's a test piece that I finished, and this is the end result. And you can see it's nicely ground down. It's pretty flat. It's flat to within 0.2 of a millimeter across its entire length. This is about 10 times as fast as milling. It's still pretty damn tedious, however. So that didn't work very well. The belt grinder worked at first well. The first bar, it ground down in maybe 5 minutes flat. but the second bar took about 10 minutes, and the third bar, well, you know, the belt was already worn down, so I'm now back at it with the mill. This time I'm trying a different approach though. I got a carbide insert bit and I'm doing a face milling type of operation. This here, it's still really tedious. Tedious? Why the hexagon would I do that? I can do something much more interesting. So I made up a custom fixture plate. It is double-sided, and that way on one side I can clamp on up to 3 of my workpieces and mill them in a horizontal fashion, or I can flip it over and bolt it down to the table and mill up to 6 workpieces in this transverse fashion. I got some clamps that I machined, and these clamps will be able to hold each individual piece separately, and I'll hold it down tightly, and, well, I haven't tested it yet, but hopefully it'll work. And if it does work, I figure it's going to make things at least 23% less tedious. Let's find out. So there's 3 pieces just being docked down to size. Oh, 3 at a time. I don't know how much my poor little mill is going to suffer though. It is rattling. It's rattling the set screws out and the motor's just burning up. But I'm able to do 3 at a time, and chatter's not too bad. There's not very much squealing, so my fixture is holding these bars down really nice and tight. And by the crook of the hook, I'll tidy this corner up. I added a few extra screw holes into my fixture so I can clamp my workpieces down in the middle. That way I can remove the end screws and mill off that bump on the end, and, well, that economizes on material. Waste not, want not, you know. Brr, it is a cold November. Nothing like a belt sander to warm your heart up and workpiece. Okay, most of the way done. Bars fit in nice and tightly. And the last thing to do is just to make these groovy. The wobbliness you see is due to the rubber feet I put on this tabletop mill. Intrinsically, it's pretty rigid, I hope. Though the safety officer's not liking how I'm mistreating this carbide ball-end mill. So there we go, the Shoeless Traveler 2.0. I made 14 of them, of which I'm going to keep 1 in reserve for myself, and I'll put 13 out to the community. The 2.0 is somewhat similar functionally to the version 1. As I said earlier in the video, the hook is shorter, but the 2 version does have a certain advantage, and the advantage that there is a lot more meat holding the hook onto the crook. So the Shoeless Traveler is about 117 millimeters long, is about a ½ an inch wide, and 4 millimeters thick. I designed the Shoeless Traveler specifically to work with the M12 Fool saw, but frankly, it should go in just fine to any saw with a similarly thick slut. So I can conclude, you gotta be fucking nuts to attempt any sort of manufacturing run with such a tiny mill. Fortunately for you, I am, so you don't have to be. Anyways, I don't know how many more of these I'm going to make, unless I get a hold of some hung guy with a sweatshop who can make them for pennies a pop. Limited supply. Check in the link below. I'll put some instructions on how you can get one of these if you want one. Okay, let's give her a whirl on some junk 3/4 plywood. Success! And you can be successful too. All you need to do is like this infomercial and click subscribe. Anyway, thanks for watching and take care.